The object of the game in polyanagrams is for you and your opponent to build a crossword grid. You usually create one new word on each turn, but certain bonus moves allow you to create and score two words. To start a game, spread all 81 letter tiles on the table, face down to form the stockpile. Players will draw on it throughout the game to keep their letter racks filled. Then draw one letter each to see who goes first. The letter nearest A begins.
Return the letters to the stockpile and mix them in. The player who goes first puts 7 letter tiles on their letter rack. Their opponent then does the same. Finally, the player who goes first turns 6 letters face up on the table and adds the blank tile to form the bone pile.
The first player begins the game by forming a word on the table using any combination of letters from their letter rack and/or the bone pile. They may assign any value to the blank tile and use it in creating their new word. In this case, the blank tile stands for an N in the word blackens. After creating their new word, the player withdraws enough letters from the stockpile to refill both their letter rack and the bone pile to 7 letters each, as shown here. The scorekeeper records the word and calculates the score. Each letter in each new word, including the blank tile, earns 1 point. The other player then forms a crossing word in similar fashion, and so on through the game. In polyanagrams, each word must have at least 4 letters, may not be repeated during the game, and may not contain capital letters or punctuation. You may use a dictionary to check spelling and to see if a word actually exists in English. If you use a search engine, you only need to find one definition to validate your word. If you happen to see a promising word besides the one you had been looking for, you may not use it during that turn. Write it down and save it for later. Once a word has been recorded and scored, it may not be changed. There is no penalty for misspelling a word. In fact, in polyanagrams, there are no penalties at all. Let's look now at the rules for polyanagrams as played at the basic level. As we have seen, you generally add one new word to the grid on each turn. You may also anagram existing words. That is, use only a word's own letters to form a new word. If a word has multiple anagrams, such as naps, to pans, to span, to snap, you may only play and score one of them during a single turn. However, you may anagram 2 or more different words in the same turn. Either way, you still get to create your new word. You may modify words that are already in the crossword grid in a number of different ways and relocate them when they are blocking the placement of your new word. You may also harvest letters that you need from words that are already in your grid. I have described and illustrated both of these features in the companion video, Moves and Maneuvers. At any time in the game, you may remove the blank tile from the grid and replace it with a tile that matches its present letter value. For example, if it is currently standing for an S, you may replace it with an actual S and then assign it a new letter value for use in your new word.
The total number of words in the grid may never go down. This would happen if you took a word out of the grid and used its letters to modify an existing word rather than creating a new one. To catch this error, the scorekeeper should note the number of words in the grid after each turn. A word with 10 letters or more may not be shortened below 10 letters unless you use its letters to form a new word that has at least 10 letters. The purpose of this restriction is to tie up letters in the grid and move the game along. Someone should also photograph the grid after each turn, along with both letter racks. These images will be the only way to restore the grid to its previous state if a player should happen to make a mistake.
I'll now describe how a game of polyanagrams comes to an end. The first milestone is when the last of the letters in the stockpile are used up, because the players will no longer be able to refill their letter racks. Play continues as before. As the players use the remaining letters on their racks, one of them is soon poised to empty theirs. Notice that this player only has 1 O and 2 N's on their rack. On their next turn, the player used them all in creating the new word non-carriers. The other player then emptied their rack into the bone pile, and the end game began. From that point on, the spelling of existing words could not be changed. except by anagramming. New words could only be created by putting letters alongside or among the letters in existing words. The players finished the game by creating 3 new words. Only 3 letters were left unused in the bone pile. Please understand that the big words shown in these illustrations were laid down by experts. Don't be intimidated. This grid was created by an 8-year-old and a 6-year-old on their first try. Just give it a shot. If you think that PolyAnagrams has potential, please click the thumbs up icon below. YouTube will then make the site more visible. Hitting the subscribe button and leaving a comment would help even more. Thanks for watching. Enjoy!